Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Fuel Your Wellness. My name is Ashley Cotta. I'm a registered dietitian, wellness enthusiast, and fitness professional. I'm so excited to come to you guys today to talk about the holidays. The holidays are right around the corner, so it's a perfect time to talk about ways to incorporate healthier habits throughout the holidays. Too often I see people who are trying to diet during the holidays, and we want to try to maintain a healthy relationship with food all year round, including during the holiday season, so that you can be healthy but also enjoy those holiday dishes, meals, and traditions. So today I'm going to give you 12 healthy holiday tips to maintain that healthy relationship with food during this time of the year. So number one is to add more side dishes. I think a lot of people already do this during their holidays, but incorporating more vegetables within these holiday dishes can be really important because often we don't have enough of those during the holidays. So this could be like roasted Brussels sprouts, it could be fresh salads. A lot of times my family adds a lot of appetizers in addition to the sides in the main dish. So this could be a good way to do it for your family as well. Number two is to cook with healthier alternatives. Now, this could be a little bit of a controversial topic because what happens is a lot of people want to maintain the integrity of their holiday traditional family recipes, and I think that's great and I'm all about that, but there are some things that we can take and tweak without even sacrificing flavor or consistency. So for example, for myself, I really like the way I cook my mashed potatoes, and they are in a healthier way. And for me, I don't recognize any difference in terms of flavor or texture. I really like the way I make them, and I just make sure I add a lot of spices, herbs, and a ton of garlic so that they can add a lot of flavor. And I use soy milk instead of using a butter or a butter alternative like a plant-based vegan butter, margarine, and I find that the consistency is perfect and the flavor is robust. So this is a great way to do this for your family and yourself for your holiday. So think of the things that you could do this with. For example, butter. This is something that you could replace with olive oil, right? So that's an easy swap. There's other things too, like using more seasoning and herbs versus using a lot of salt, and even using non-dairy items like non-dairy almond milk, oat milk, soy milk instead of the dairy alternative. There's just so many ways to do this, and you can find the ways that work for you and your family dishes. Also, making things from scratch, that's going to be a great way to not only add healthier alternatives, but for the most part, when you make things like stuffing from scratch, not only is it healthier, but it tastes a lot better too. So this is a great way to use that healthy alternative. Number three, this idea I personally got from my own family. My experience with holidays has always been potluck style, meaning that each family member brings their own dish. This is something that I'm really passionate about because for the host, this is so much more pleasurable, right? So that the host doesn't have to do the cooking and the cleaning, doing all the different dishes for the holiday spread. Instead, what my family does is we each bring something to contribute to the dishes for our menu, essentially. So for example, my aunt Judy, she always loves to make these delicious deviled eggs. So that's kind of her specialty. I like to do my vegan lasagna. My grandma does the best garlicky green beans. And so we each bring something different, and it contributes to the whole delicious spread of meals. And what this can do on a nutritional standpoint is it can add variety. So if the same person, if the host is the only one doing the cooking, not only are you tiring them out and maybe they're going to have not enough time to make the meals as, perfect as they could be because of that, but also if the same person is cooking all the meals, they're likely using similar ingredients and flavors for each of the meals. So if we can add variety and spread the different responsibilities out, it's going to be more enjoyable for everyone, less work, and more nutrients essentially on the table. So this is a great way to do it. Think about that for your upcoming family events. This is a great way to also add, if you are a plant-based eater, to bring your own dish that you know you can have. This is one of the reasons I love to make my vegan lasagna, is that I know I have something hearty that I can eat for my main meal, and others can enjoy it as well. So it's a win-win for everyone. The next tip is, again, a little bit of a controversial one, as well as, the eating potluck style. All of these could be a little bit controversial, but exercise during the holidays is my next tip. And what I want to point out about this one is that I am not someone who believes in exercise as a means to burn off meals, right? So make sure we get that mindset out of our heads. We don't want to think of exercise as a form to, make a calorie deficit by any means. We want to use exercise to celebrate our body. And in my personal opinion, the best way to do that is to do this on a holiday. So for example, Thanksgiving is the holiday that's coming up, and this is a great opportunity to send gratitude to your body for all it does for you and all you can do with it. So for example, if you and your family do a race, a lot of those like turkey runs and stuff happen on Thanksgiving morning. You could totally do that together. You could walk it, you could run it, you could take a walk around the neighborhood, whatever it is that works best for you and your family. But I think doing it together is also going to be a unique experience. This is going to be a way to connect with one another, which again is what the family tradition is about on holidays. So when we celebrate our bodies, it's a great way to feel better mentally and physically and connect with each other during the holiday, especially during that day. Another reason I really am all about exercising on a holiday is because of the fact that although it is a special day, it's also not much different than any other day. So we want to try to treat it regularly like it's just another day in terms of our routine, because it's easy to fall off of our routine if we even skip just one day of those healthy habits, healthy behaviors, especially if you're trying to get healthier in order to start off the new year healthy, which is just around the corner. I do want to point out, if you're someone who doesn't regularly exercise, I don't necessarily suggest specifically exercising on a holiday, because again, that makes the mindset more of, I need to burn this off, instead of a celebration. So make sure you recognize the difference for you and your body. The next tip, this is probably one I focus on all the time in terms of a regular basis, and especially with the holidays. Once again, my family is great at giving me some tips of what not to do. And one of the things you don't want to do is skip breakfast. So always have breakfast, not only every day, but especially on the holidays. On the holidays, we tend to skip that breakfast meal in hopes that we're gonna save our appetite. And what happens is we are actually we're shrinking our stomach. And while that might seem like something that you want to do, it's actually something that's going to be detrimental to our health and to the enjoyment of the day. And I'll tell you why. The reason being is because when we shrink our stomach, we get to a zero, so to speak. So I talk about this scale a lot, which is called the hunger fullness scale. I could go on and on about this, so I'll save this whole topic for another day, but just in brief, the hunger fullness scale, on one end, it's a 0, which means, hangry, if you've heard of that term before, that's where you get hangry. The other end of the spectrum is a 10, where you're overly stuffed, overly full. And when we start at a 0, we are more likely to get to the 10. And when we start not eating breakfast, we're at a 0 when we get to our meal. So that means when we even eat a small amount of food, we could get to a 10 faster than if we ate breakfast in the first place. So what this does, it takes away from the enjoyment of the feast, so to speak, right? We have so many options on this holiday, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas if you celebrate that. These are days that you can have a lot of ideas for different options of food. And while it's amazing to have all those different options, if you don't have the room in your stomach for them, we can't really enjoy them, right? So if you can eat breakfast, this takes away from the idea of, oh my gosh, I need to eat fast, I need to eat now. That's what happens when we're at a zero. So when we're at a zero on that scale, we not only eat more, but the type of food we eat is maybe not as healthy, and we eat really fast. So how we eat is different, how much we eat is different, and the quality of the food we eat is different. So if we can just eat breakfast and stay in the middle of that scale, we're gonna be better off. That restrictive mindset happens when we skip breakfast. And if you're dieting, so to speak, during the holidays, that restrictive mindset can kick in general. So if you're kind of like dieting, trying to restrict things, when you get to that holiday meal, you're just gonna wanna eat a lot. So try not to skip breakfast. One of the things that I do is that I have actually breakfast at my dad's in the morning. So I actually tend to eat the biggest meal in the morning, a moderate meal at lunch, and then a small amount at dinner time. My family actually eats at 1 p.m. We're all different in how we celebrate, so take that and work it into your own routine and your schedule and your holiday tradition. The next tip, this is also relating back to trying not to tweak those recipes too much to keep the integrity of the family tradition, but this one is to enjoy your favorite holiday meals. Now, when we think of our plate, a lot of us, I know I've seen it before in, talking to clients as well as with my own family, a lot of those plates are a lot of turkey, a lot of mashed potatoes, a lot of stuffing. Those tend to be the things that people like the most. And while they are great options and always there for the holidays, we want to try to make sure we have smaller portions of those while still enjoying those things, right? Your favorite thing might be something else. Maybe it's a dessert. But trying to have all those favorites on your plate is really important, because this is going to contribute to the enjoyment of the experience, right? So for example, I know that one of my favorite things is pecan pie, right? So you might have your favorite thing that you can instantly think of right now for the holidays, and you want to have that on your plate. And what happens is if we have a small portion of that on our plate, we are almost forced to enjoy it mindfully, right? Because we're like, this is all I have. I want to take in a mind-body experience with this particular meal or item. And that's exactly what you can do. Now, a lot of times people use the word calorie void or the term no calorie, a lot of calories and no nutritional benefit, which is essentially calorie void or nutrient void. So when we have a nutrient void food, we think it's pointless, but it's actually not. We are being nourished in a different sense with our, experience, with our pleasure. So remember that food is not only for the purpose of nourishing our body, but it's for nourishing our soul and our connection. And this is important to have those traditional meals in order to enhance the connection with maybe the person who cooked it, or to enhance the pleasure of eating. So remember that some of these things that might be not the most nutrients can still give you a benefit on your plate. And this brings me to the next tip here, which is making more vegetables appear on that plate. So essentially adding half of your plate full of vegetables. And so having that other half of those pleasurable things is important, but having half your plate of vegetables is just as important, because those pleasurable things can give you those macronutrients like carbs, protein, and fat. But we tend to get enough of those on a regular basis, but most of us aren't getting enough of the micronutrients which come from vegetables and fruits. So if we can load up on those, we will tend to have fewer cravings and we'll be able to be more satisfied with less food, essentially. The next tip is sitting while eating your holiday meal. Make sure you are sitting. Most families do this, but I recognize that not all of them do. My own family, as well as I've seen other families, do more of a buffet style. So what this looks like is a table with the whole spread of meals, and this could be, one table in one room, and in the other room there's a bunch of chairs or the couch or maybe a table. But for my family in particular, we can't fit all of us at one table, so we all kind of disperse. And what happens is that we tend to stand up. So think about that in your family. Does anyone stand up in your family? think about this, and if that's you, or maybe it's not during the holidays, but you're standing up during your regular meals on a day-to-day basis, think about this and how this affects how you eat and what you eat and how much you eat. Because again, when we are standing up, we are in that fight or flight mode. That is that sympathetic nervous system activation. So when we're in that, our bodies aren't good at doing two things at once. It can't rest and digest at the same time as being in fight or flight. So it chooses one or the other. And when we're standing, think of the muscles. The muscles are more tense. We're using our core to help us stand up instead of using our, digestive system in a relaxed state. So we want to sit down, maybe find someone to have a good conversation with, sit down with them. That way your body is at ease and can absorb the nutrients better and digest a little bit better as well. This brings me also to the next tip, which is to eat slowly. Think about the last time you stood up while you were eating. This could be on your lunch break. It could be while you're cooking, trying to rush to get the meal cooked before people come over. A lot of times we associate standing up with eating fast. So again, eating sitting down can help eating slower, but also trying to stay at an easy, slow pace is important, especially when you're around people who eat really fast. So this could be during the holidays with a family member who eats fast. Maybe choose someone who eats a little slower to eat with. That way you can encourage healthy behaviors for yourself as well. Because when we eat fast, we tend to want to get more because it takes about 15 minutes for that signal to go from the stomach to the brain to tell our bodies, I'm done, I'm full, I'm ready to stop eating. So if we bypass that and eat fast, we can eat twice or 3 times as much as we would if we ate slower. So keep that in mind, check those habits. The next tip is to beware of liquid calories. For some people, this is going to be alcohol, maybe eggnog, maybe wine, maybe beer, and for others, it might be juice or soda, and it also can include sauces and dressings and gravies. So keep this in mind, and what I like to point out here is that I am totally anti-calorie counting, but I am pro-calorie awareness. And the difference is calorie counting is having a set restrictive amount of calories that you want to reach each day or not surpass each day. Calorie awareness is a little bit different. So it looks like just being aware that the fact cheese and butter and oils have a lot of calories for a small volume. On the other hand, fruits and vegetables have a large volume for a small amount of calories. So if we can recognize this without being so specific and knowing the exact amounts, this is going to help us to maintain a healthy amount of calories for that holiday meal while still enjoying those high calorie dense foods. In addition, this relates to liquid calories because we can be aware of maybe having 5 ounces and being mindful with that 5 ounces. Something that's helpful that can kind of relate into this tip, kind of a tip within a tip, is also to drink more water. So when we're drinking more water, we can fill up more and we can stay hydrated while having those liquid calories as well. So keeping that healthy fluid, kind of staying hydrated on that holiday meal is again going to help you to maintain those healthy habits throughout the holiday season so that you don't have to get back on track when the new year rolls around. We want to stay on track so we don't have to get back on track. The next, and probably I will argue that it's the most important tip, is to make the holiday about connecting. It doesn't really have to do with food, this one, but I think often we get so obsessed with food that we don't even think about the holiday as being a time to celebrate family and, gratitude. A lot of times we just are like, oh, I can't wait for, X, Y, or Z, your favorite dish. Instead, we want to try to think of my favorite thing about the holiday is this favorite, relative that I get to see, my best friend I get to see that I don't usually get to see, someone visiting or you visiting loved ones. I always like to say the food is a plus, but the connection is the purpose of the holiday. When we think of it in that mindset, it totally tweaks how we eat and our mindfulness around food. Again, going back to that restrictive mindset that many people have because a lot of people are, disordered eaters, When you have that restrictive mindset, especially during the holidays, it's going to make you just so obsessed around food that you're going to overdo it. So we want to instead think about the connections and what we can gain from those instead of just having a one-track mind around food. And the last tip, number 12, is to send guests home with leftovers. This is actually really helpful for everyone. So if you're the host, this can help because you don't want to have all these leftovers that either go to waste or that you feel pressured to eat so that they don't go to waste. So this can help the other people too who are attending the host's house because it can actually help them to almost have like meal prep for the next few days. A lot of people during the holiday season, we kind of get off track with the meal prepping. We get busy, we have hectic schedules. So meal prepping isn't really a top priority. So not having those healthy things at home makes it difficult and we might dine out more. But instead, if you can take a few items home that are your favorites, you can also extend the tradition, those traditional meals, those recipes, those family recipes, and enjoy it for longer. And again, that's a great part of the holidays is enjoying those foods that maybe you only have that one time of year. That can help everyone. I think a great way to do this is to bring your own Tupperware or to have, the host get a bunch of, inexpensive Tupperware so that you can send everyone home with a little bit. And this can also add a lot of variety. If you each are bringing something different, instead of just taking home what you brought, take that platter that you brought your food in and just take a little bit of everything. That way you can have a bunch of different colors, a bunch of different flavors, a bunch of different textures, and maybe some desserts too. I am so excited to share these holiday tips with you. I want to review them so that you can remember each and every one of these and implement them into your holidays. So again, number 1, add healthy side dishes. Number 2, you want to cook with healthier ingredient alternatives. Number 3, do potluck style dinner. Number 4, exercise together as a family. Number 5, do not skip breakfast. Number 6, enjoy your favorite holiday dishes. Number 7, load your plate with vegetables. Number 8, sit down while eating. Number 9, eat slowly. Number 10, be aware of those liquid, sneaky calories. Number 11, focus on the connection with others instead of the food. And number 12, send people home with leftovers or take leftovers home if you're the guest. I really hope each and every one of you who are watching this have a lovely holiday surrounded by family and friends and healthy, delicious, tasty food. If you have any topics that you want to hear about relating to food, nutrition, wellness, fitness, please send them to my email and I'd be more than happy to do an episode on them. Have a healthy, happy holiday and I'll see you soon. Today's food for thought is all about the protein spectrum. You might be thinking, what is the protein spectrum? It's something I created to help simplify and better distinguish between good, better, and best protein sources. So here is the protein spectrum, and as you can see, there's a few different levels to the protein spectrum, including 4 legs, 2 legs, no legs, and no pulse. And we're gonna get into it. It's a bit of a silly analogy, but it really helps to focus in on how can I better my protein sources and incorporate healthier versions with more benefit. So let's start at the left side of the spectrum, which is 4 legs. So essentially, protein that is from an animal with 4 legs, like pigs and cows, like pork and beef, these are probably the least healthy options when it comes to protein sources. And that's simply because they can be really highly saturated in saturated fat, and they can also be pretty processed, in particular the pork. So a lot of things like salami and hot dogs and ham, these things are cured, which that curing process is carcinogenic. So we want to be careful about consuming these things, and that's why we want to limit those 4-legged animals, that red meat, to as little as possible, if not avoid it completely, especially if you have any cardiac issues, such as a previous heart attack or anything along those lines. Now, the second category is 2-legged animals. So this would be something like turkey and chicken, and even eggs can fall in this category because it's from a chicken. And these things are a lot leaner than the red meat, right? There's less saturated fat in them. However, there can be adverse health effects if you have too much. And the other point of that is that if you're avoiding red meat or limiting it, and you're just having chicken every day, you're not getting a lot of variety when it comes to your protein source, and you're consuming the same nutrients over and over and over again. So the next category would be one of the most optimal categories, and that would be the no-leg category, right? And that is shellfish and fish. And even within this category, there's a better choice, which would be the actual fish itself, especially things like salmon and even things like swordfish. Although it has higher mercury levels, if you have it once in a while, it does have good levels of those healthy omega-3 fats. Now, shellfish, on the other hand, have a lot of cholesterol in them, but they are also protein source, and they are also a really good nutrient-dense source of protein. And all the animal sources of protein are very bioavailable. So although you can absorb it a lot, we're going to go into why we might want the most optimal choice of protein, which is no legs, no pulse, which is plant-based protein sources. And the reason we want to incorporate more of these is because they're the only protein source that have fiber. So these are things like lentils, beans, edamame, soy milk, as well as tofu and tempeh, which maybe you've never tried, and this is a great opportunity to start to try those things, and a great encouragement to do so. And if you incorporate all of these different things, you're gonna get so much more variety. So if you're someone who's thinking, I am not ditching my red meat, that's okay. If you incorporate some of those other types of protein on the protein spectrum, you're gonna get a lot of benefit from that. So again, protein with fiber is one of the most optimal that you can possibly have. Fish, if you eat it about 2 to 3 times a week, it can give you so many health benefits and increase your omega-3 consumption. You can incorporate some chicken from time to time, or turkey, or even eggs. And then red meat, we do want to limit, but if that's your favorite, definitely don't eliminate it completely, because you don't want to deprive yourself of what you love. So I hope this protein spectrum helps you distinguish between what should I be eating more of, what should I be eating less of, and how can I still get enough protein for my needs. If you want more information like this, tune in to Fuel Your Wellness.